You are listening to PastThink.com audiobook. Please like and subscribe, thank you. Chapter 58. Wu Yong's deception in the Golden Bell affair, Song Jiang makes a row at Mount Hua. Luda was very angry at being arrested in the yamen, and said, "I am a monk that has renounced the world. I am a peaceful man. How dare you arrest me? I wish to die along with Shurjin. I shall not mind that. Only Song Jiang will punish you for my death. I will tell you something. No enmity cannot be abolished. If you hand over to me Shurjin, and the daughter of Wang Yi, and then you resign from your position, then our enmity will vanish. I see from your face that you are lustful, and have no right to be a prefect. If you do these three things, however, Buddha will look upon you with mercy, but if you miss this opportunity you will live to regret it. Now let me go to see Shurjin, and then give me an answer." The prefect was very angry at this, and said, "As I suspected, you came to assassinate me like Shurjin. That fellow. You want to see him. Take this fellow to prison, have him beaten, and I will deal with him later on. He is evidently a bird of the same feather with Shurjin. Put a strong kang on him, and see that he is well locked up." This was done, and the prefect wrote a dispatch to the provincial governor asking for instructions. This affair was soon known all over the town, and one of the brigand spies hearing of it, rushed off at once to Mount Shaohua to report it. Wu Song was surprised at the news and said, "How can I now face the other leaders when Luda has been taken prisoner?" While he was thinking the matter over, another spy arrived, and reported that a leader named Dai Zong had just come from Liangshan Marsh, and was waiting at the foot of the mountain to see Wu Song. The latter immediately went down the mountain, and conducted Dai Zong up to their stronghold where he introduced him to Zhu Wu. Dai Zong was surprised to hear the news about Luda and Shurjin, and said, "I must not stop here. I will go back at once to Liangshan Marsh, and ask Song Jiang to send his men to rescue the two brothers." "I will wait here until you return," said Wu Song. "Please come back quickly with assistance." Dai Zong put on his charmed puttees, and flew off. It took him 3 days to travel from Shaanxi province to Liangshan Marsh in Shandong. When Chao Gai and Song Jiang got the news, arrangements were made for 7,000 cavalry and infantry to depart at once with 16 leaders under the command of Song Jiang. Dai Zong was sent off to report to Mount Shaohua in Shaanxi province that help was coming. The bandits duly reached their destination, and the leaders were taken up the mountain to discuss matters. Zhu Wu reported that Luda and Shurjin were still in prison, and the prefect was now waiting a decree authorizing him to execute the prisoners. Song Jiang asked whether there was any proposal as to how the prisoners could be rescued. Zhu Wu said, "Huazhou is a very big town, and the moat is very deep. It is a difficult town to take. If there is a coup d'état inside the town we might succeed. Tomorrow we must go and inspect the town and its defenses," said Wu Yong. "Then we can discuss matters. We must not however go in the daytime, because the prefect will take care and will be on the lookout for us. We must start tomorrow afternoon so as to reach the town after sunset. There will be a full moon tomorrow." This was agreed, and the next afternoon the 5 leaders started off on horseback and reached the town about 8 p.m. They dismounted near a hillock where they could overlook the town. It was a bright moonlight night, with a cloudless sky. In the distance they could clearly see the western sacred mountain, Mount Hua. Song Jiang saw that the town was well situated for defense, and was also well protected. Wu Yong suggested that they should return to their headquarters and discuss matters again. They all remounted and rode off. Song Jiang felt very depressed at the prospect. Wu Yong suggested that they should have scouts around the town to spy and notice what was going on, and this was done. 2 days later one of these scouts arrived at Mount Shaohua and reported that there was an official who was coming from the capital conveying a bell for the temple on Mount Hua as offered by the emperor. He had crossed the Yellow River, and was now traveling along the Wei River towards Huazhou. "Elder brother, do not be disappointed," said Wu Yong. "I think we can make something out of this. He then summoned Li Jun and Zhang Shun, and told them his plans. Li Jun, however, pointed out that they did not know the district well, and therefore must have a guide to go with them. Yang Chun offered to accompany them. This was agreed to, and the three men left the mountain. The following day Song Jiang with 7 leaders, and about 500 men also left the mountain. Upon reaching the ferry across the Wei River they had got 10 boats there. Wu Yong divided the leaders placing Hua Rong and 3 others on the bank with the men, while Song Jiang, Zhu Tong, Li Ying, and himself were on the boats. Li Jun, Zhang Shun, and Yang Chun were in hiding near the landing place. They waited there all that night, but early the next morning they heard the sound of gongs and drums, and soon an official boat hove in sight. It was flying a yellow flag on which was written that the official named Marshal Su was proceeding by imperial order to Mount Hua to burn incense and offer sacrifices. Li Ying and Zhu Tong took their spears and stood behind Song Jiang, while Wu Yong sat on the bow of his boat. Their boats blocked the river so that the official's boat had to stop. The men on the boat shouted, "Who are you? How dare you obstruct the river and delay a minister?" Song Jiang held out an official ivory tablet, such as is used by men on imperial business, and bowed. Wu Yong on his boat called out, "The hero Song Jiang from Liangshan Marsh wishes to interview Marshal Su." An officer came forward on the boat, and replied, "This is a boat conveying imperial envoy Marshal Su to Mount Hua to offer sacrifices and burn incense. How can you bandits stop our passage?" Song Jiang still retained his stooping posture, while Wu Yong spoke, "Our hero wishes to state a case to His Excellency." The officer replied, "What kind of man are you? How dare you be so reckless as to wish to speak to His Excellency Su?" The men on both sides of him, however, asked the officer not to speak so loudly. Song Jiang still retained his attitude while Wu Yong spoke, "We request your official to disembark here, and we will discuss an important matter on the bank." Stupid talk. His Excellency is on imperial business. How can he talk with the likes of you? Song Jiang now stood up and said, "If His Excellency will not meet me, I am afraid that my men will have to give a surprise." Zhu Tong now took his spear at the top of which was a flag, and he waved this. Hua Rong and the other leaders seeing this signal brought all their men to the river bank. The sailors on the boat seeing this took cover, and the officer went into the cabin, and reported the matter to Marshal Su, who came on deck and took his seat there. Song Jiang again saluted, "I am afraid that I have been very disrespectful." "Why have you stopped my boat in this way?" asked Marshal Su. "We dare not hinder you," replied Song Jiang, "but I request you to disembark here, when I will disclose an important matter." "I am on a special mission from the Emperor," said Marshal Su, "and have nothing to say to you. How can a high dignitary do as you wish?" "If your Excellency will not disembark," said Wu Yong, "I am afraid that our men will come here to fetch you." Li Ying now waved a flag at the top of his spear, and immediately Yang Chun, Li Jun, and Zhang Shun rowed their boats towards the official boat. The marshal was surprised at this. Li Jun and Zhang Shun unsheathed their swords, and as the boats got near they leapt across, seized 2 of the minor officers, and threw them into the river. "Don't do such silly things," called out Song Jiang. "His Excellency will be upset." Li Jun and Zhang Shun upon hearing this dived into the water, rescued the 2 men, and brought them safely onto the boat again. "You 2 go away as you have frightened His Excellency," said Song Jiang. "We will talk matters over, and request His Excellency to disembark." "Hero," said Marshal Su. "What have you to say? You can tell me here." "This is not a place to discuss matters," said Wu Yong. "We should prefer that you come to our stronghold on the mountain. We have no bad intentions, and if we deceive you, may the spirits of the western sacred mountain Mount Hua punish us." As Marshal Su saw no way of escape, he left his boat, and went up the river bank. A man came from the forest with a horse, and Marshal Su mounted it. The leaders also mounted, and they all set off for Mount Shaohua. The incense, bell, etc. were taken off the official boat, and conveyed up the mountain. Li Jun and Zhang Shun with about 100 men were left in charge of the boats. Upon reaching the stronghold, the leaders assembled in the main hall on both sides with Marshal Su in the seat of honor in the center. Song Jiang gave 4 salutations to the marshal, knelt down, and said, "Previously I was a clerk in the magistrate's yamen at Yunqing County, but I was persecuted and compelled to escape to Liangshan Marsh, where I joined the heroes there. We are quite ready and willing to help the emperor when needed. Just now 2 of our leaders have been unjustly sent to prison by the prefect of Huazhou. We wish to borrow the incense, bell, etc., and so get entrance into the town. We will relieve you of all responsibility in this trick. We hope that you will agree to our proposal." "If you use my things in this way," replied Marshal Su, "I shall be blamed. When you return to the capital you may throw all the blame on me," said Song Jiang. Marshal Su glanced round at the armed bandit leaders and saw that there was no means of escape, so he agreed. Song Jiang again saluted and offered wine to the marshal. The leaders then exchanged clothing with Marshal Su and his official party. When all had been satisfactorily arranged, the bandits in their new disguise left the mountain and embarked on the official boat. But instead of going towards Huazhou, they proceeded towards Mount Hua. Daizong went in advance to the temple on the mountain and informed the head priest of the arrival of an imperial commissioner. The priests came down the mountain and met the boat upon arrival. The presents were carried in front, many being carried by the priest's servants to the temple. Wu Yong said that the marshal had not been well on the journey, so a closed sedan chair was provided in which the false commissioner was carried up the mountain. He was assisted out of the chair upon reaching the temple. Wu Yong again spoke to the head priest, "We have brought many presents from the emperor which are for the spirits of this mountain. But how is it that the prefect of Huazhou is not here to receive us respectfully?" "I will send a man to report your arrival," said the head priest, "and he will soon be here." Soon after this, however, a deputy from the prefect arrived with about 70 soldiers, and much fruit and wine for the imperial commissioner. The bandit who was acting the part of the imperial commissioner had certain likeness, but he had not the intelligence and learning, and therefore could not speak like an educated Mandarin. Therefore he pretended to be sick so as to avoid conversation, and sat silently on the bed. But the prefect's deputy saw all the genuine imperial presents and the official dresses, and had no suspicion. When introduced to the marshal, he could not hear what the false commissioner was saying. But Wu Yong asked why the prefect had not come personally, and the deputy explained how the brigands had been attacking the town, and how the prefect were afraid of leaving the town, and had sent him as deputy. He said, however, the prefect would come later on. The deputy then ordered wine to be served to all the men who had brought the presents. Wu Yong went and got the key and opened the box containing the bell. He took the bell out and hung it on a framework. It was made by the best workmen at the capital and looked very fine with its precious stones inlaid. Underneath the bell was a lamp with a red silk shade. It was intended that this bell should be hung in the center of the imperial temple. It was a fine piece of craftsmanship such as only the emperor could obtain. After inspection by the deputy and the priests, Wu Yong locked it up again in the box. He then took out the official letters and, handing these to the deputy, asked him to convey them to the prefect, who could fix an auspicious time for his visit to the temple to offer the sacrifices. The deputy and his followers then took their leave and returned to Huazhou to report the matter to the prefect. What a cute plan, thought Song Jiang. The prefect is sure to be deceived. As there was nothing else to do, he took a stroll round the temple admiring the building, which really was of exceptional rarity and beauty. As he returned to the main hall, he was informed that the prefect was coming. He told Huarong, Su Ning, Zhu Tong, and Li Ying, now dressed as imperial soldiers, to take up their positions on both sides of the hall, and 4 other leaders with Daizong to take up their positions on both sides of the supposed imperial commissioner. The prefect brought with him about 300 soldiers as an escort. They dismounted at the temple gate and entered. Song Jiang and Wu Yong saw that all the men were armed, so Wu Yong called out, "As an imperial commissioner is here, these soldiers must not come inside." The soldiers therefore halted, and the prefect went forward by himself. Wu Yong then said, "His Excellency requests the prefect to go into his room for an interview." The prefect entered the room and saluted the brigand on the bed in the disguise of an imperial commissioner. "Prefect, are you not conscious of your fault?" asked Wu Yong. "I did not know that His Excellency had arrived, and beg him to excuse me," replied the prefect. "After the first dispatch from the government about these presents, I got no further dispatch as to when you would arrive." "Seize him," ordered Wu Yong, and immediately the 4 leaders standing at the side unsheathed their swords, and seizing the prefect cut off his head. "Proceed with your work," called out Song Jiang, and immediately all his men attacked the prefect's escort. They were taken by surprise, and most of them were killed on the spot. Some tried to escape but were met at the gate by other bandits, and were soon finished. Not a single man of the 300 soldiers escaped death. Even civilians who had followed the soldiers to see the ceremony were also killed. Song Jiang had all the imperial presents transferred to the boat, and set off for the town. He saw that fire had broken out in several parts of the town, as his men had got inside. He himself went straight to the jail, and released Luda and Shurjin. Luda got his monk's staff, and joined in the uprising. The daughter of Wang Yi had previously committed suicide by jumping into a well. The brigands secured much loot, and conveyed this on carts to their boats. When all was ready they returned to Mount Shaohua. The offerings were duly handed over again to Marshal Su. Song Jiang also presented him with much gold and silver, and gave much also to his guard. After a feast Marshal Su and his men went down the mountain, and again embarked on their boat. Marshal Su proceeded to Huazhou, and there he saw the enormous amount of damage that the bandits had done. He also went to Mount Hua, and saw the large number of dead bodies lying about. He then got the recorder in the town to write a full account of the disaster, throwing the full blame on Song Jiang and his brigands. He then returned to the capital to report the affair. The bandits and leaders at Mount Shaohua agreed to join those under Song Jiang at Liangshan Marsh. They all left for that place where they celebrated their victory and alliance by the usual feast. After this, however, there was a dinner provided by Shurjin and 3 other leaders. At that dinner Chao Gai spoke, "I have something to tell you about what happened while Song Jiang and his men were at Huazhou. One day Zhu Gui came and reported that at Mount Mangdan in Shuzhou Prefecture there are about 3,000 brigands under the leadership of a man named Fan Rui, nicknamed the Demon King of Disorder. He can control the wind and rain, and uses his men with great skill and strategy. He has 2 assistants, Xiang Chung and Li Gun, who are famous for throwing knives which would kill men at 100 paces. These 3 are sworn brothers, and they have the intention of attacking Liangshan Marsh and getting control here." When I heard of this I was very angry. Song Jiang was also annoyed at this report and said, "How dare they be so impudent? I must go and settle the matter." At this point Shurjin stood up and said, "We 4 brothers from Mount Shaohua have so far done no meritorious deed here, although we have been admitted to your band. We are willing to take our men to attack these robbers." Song Jiang was much pleased at this offer, and it was agreed to. The men and horses were got ready, and they left the mountain with Shurjin, Zhu Wu, Chen Ta, and Yang Chun. It took them 3 days to reach Mount Mangdan. When Shurjin saw the place he remembered that it was near there that Liu Bang, who became first Emperor Gaozu of the Han dynasty, had killed a snake. They soon reached the foot of the mountain, and an outpost went to report their arrival. Shurjin arranged his men in ranks. He donned his armor, and rode to the front on a brown horse. He was armed with a sword with a double-edged blade. He was accompanied by the other 3 leaders. They had not waited long when they saw a large number of men descending the mountain with 2 leaders in front, Xiang Chung and Li Gun. When they had arranged their men in ranks, these 2 leaders, without any parley, rode forward to attack Shurjin. They threw their flying knives, and Shurjin found that he could not get near his 2 opponents, so he gradually fell back. The other leaders also retreated. About 10 Li Yang Chun's horse was wounded and abandoned. Half of their men had deserted. Shurjin held a conference with his comrades, and they all agreed that help must be requested from Liangshan Marsh. While they were talking, one of their scouts arrived and reported that on the northern road there was a large body of cavalry coming towards them. Shurjin galloped forward to see who they were and recognized the flags of Liangshan Marsh. In front rode Huarong and Su Ning, and Shurjin rode forward to meet them. He told them how Xiang Chong and Li Gun threw flying knives and had driven him back without being able to even strike a blow. That day the Liangshan Marsh forces encamped in the same spot with Shurjin's forces. The next morning they were all ready for marching forward, when another scout arrived and reported that there was a large body of cavalry coming along the north road. Shurjin and the other leaders rode forward to reconnoiter, and were pleased to find that they were about 3,000 brigands under the leadership of Song Jiang, Wu Yong, and Gong Sunsheng. They then had a discussion, and Wu Yong was in favor of them remaining in camp that day. Song Jiang was impatient and wished an immediate attack. Gong Sunsheng pointed out that on the mountain there were blue lanterns, and he thought that this indicated that the bandits there used magical spells. He advocated that they should withdraw all their men to some distance, and he would find a plan to capture the three leaders Xiang Chong, Li Gun, and Fan Rui. This was agreed to and all the men withdrew about 6 li. The King of Devils joins the bandits. The wounded chief surrenders to Liangshan Marsh.